Thank you.
No problem.
All right, so the recording is started and let's do the share. Okay, so can you now see a yellow screen?
Yeah, it's all good.
All right. So again, this is my homepage. All right, and this is, we'll get all this done today. But what I've done, and I think I mentioned this the other day, is I'm trying to combine some of the stuff we've had throughout the text. What do I mean? Well, from the database stuff, when we go to the main page and we click load data, this is going to be some of the data that we're going to have. And I realize it's a little bit hard to see. All right, I didn't try to jack with the size on it or anything. I probably could have, but I wanted to make sure you could see there are 15 albums in here. Eventually, what we're going to have is if you click on the first album here, we're going to have another data grid view down here that's going to have all of the songs that are in that album. If we go to this one, it'll be all the songs in that album, etc. But right now we're keeping it simple and we're not even using a database. I wanted to make sure that people had time, all right, to go in and download that SQL Server Management Studio that we talked about yesterday. So I'm going to expect that by Monday that people are going to have that downloaded. All right, I can go back to my main page, all right, and I can exit. So there's not a whole heck of a lot that's being done here. Now, I did send out an email after this first email this morning, and that has in it all of the images, plus it's got some of the code that we're going to need. And the reason that I gave you some of the code is it's so repetitive. It's loading each of the 15 albums in. They all have the same information in there. I mean, they're different albums, but it's the same thing 15 times. So rather than having to constantly, do it over and over and over and over again 15 times, I just thought we'd do it once. All right. So with that said, what I have done is I have gone and created a folder out on my desktop that I just called Garth. All right. So I'm going to come in and start up Visual Studio, another version of Visual Studio. I'm going to keep this other one up in case I run into any problems. I don't think I will, but you never know. So I'm going to create a new project in here. All right. As always, I'm going to choose Windows Forms app.NET Framework, C#, and I'm going to call this, doesn't really matter, but I'm going to call this Garth Brooks Database App. All right. And I'm going to change my location to make sure I'm on the desktop. And there's that folder, Garth, that I just mentioned. So you can see that. And I will call this Garth Brooks Database. Instead of app, I'm just going to call this solution. Typically, and I think I've mentioned this before, if you only have one project in a solution, there's really nothing wrong with giving the project name and the solution name the same name. There's really nothing wrong with doing that. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create this. Now, again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you, I don't need this. I'm going to give you basically the stuff that I did. And what I mean is we're going to start by building a couple classes, and there's not much in them. It literally won't take much time at all. Then I'm going to show you how I laid this thing out and set everything up. Do you have to do it that way? Not only do you not have to do it that way, I would like this project to become yours. So rather than you putting in everything that I have, you can do that for now, but I'd like you to change it. What I'm going to be responsible for is by the end of this project, giving you a sheet, and hopefully I'll have it out before the end of the project, with a list of requirements, things I want you to do over and above what we're doing in class. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is typically we'd come in here and don't do this, but we'd right mouse click on the name of our project. We'd choose add and we'd go down to class, or you'd choose new item and you'd go to class. But instead, I decided to create this using a class library because we really haven't created any of our own class libraries yet. All right. So what I'd like you to do instead is to click on the solution, not on the project, but on the solution. and then right mouse click on that and choose add new project. Yes, new project. All right, so we right mouse clicked on the solution and we chose add new project. The reason for that is what I want us to add is a class library. All right, so again, you can come up here, you can type in class library. All right, and ferret it down. You'll notice there's a lot of them. All right, but I want basically I want the class library. This came up first for mine. It might not be for yours, but it says a project for creating a class library that targets .NET or .NET Standard, and it has C# here. So that's the one that I want. All right, so I'm going to double click on that, and it comes to here, and it asks me for a name. You'll notice it does not ask me for a solution. All right, because the solution's already been set, so that's fine. We can call this whatever we want. I just called it music library. And again, it doesn't matter that much what you call it. I mean, there are some books that tell you that you should always start class things with a C or with it, whatever. I've heard some with it, start them with CLS for classes, etc. It's not really that big of a thing. So I've got this music library and I'm going to click next. And it'll take, click create, come on. All right, it'll take a second and it comes up with this. It comes up, for lack of better words, with what I call a garbage class. Now we could go and rename it and do stuff, but typically what I do is I just get rid of this class. Literally just get rid of it. So highlight it here, right mouse click, choose delete. It'll beep at you and say, hey, you're about to delete this. Is that okay? Yes, it is. And it's gone. All right. So I've got my music library and it's got dependencies in it. All right. So now I am going to go and I'm going to add two classes. So the first one, I would like you to right mouse click on the music library and choose add and go down to class. All right. And this will end up being our albums. So I'm going to name this class down here, album, capital A, little LBUM.cs. So this will be our album class. All right. I was playing around with this the other night and I tried leaving it as internal and then I changed it to public and I went back and forth, but it seemed to work best when I made it public. You've heard about that before. We've talked a little bit about it before. All right. We're going to have 6 things in here. And again, this is going to be set up as simplistically as possible. What do I mean? Well, we're going to have public. We're making all this stuff public. This will be an int and it'll be called ID and it'll have a get and it'll have a set. All right. So there's the first one. The second one will be a string and I called it album name. And again, it will have a get and it'll have a set. All right, I'm just going to go through them, put them in here, and then we'll talk about what each one of them is. All right, so that literally is it for the first class. So let's just take a minute or so and go over. We're going to probably add something later. We'll probably override the toString method, but for now, this is fine. So each album will have an ID. All right, and we will set this up. Eventually, we will set this up. This is going to link up to our database. So our database will have these fields in it. We'll have an integer field named ID, a string called album name, a string called album artist, an int called album year, a string called album URL, and a string called album DESC. Now, most of these should be self-explanatory. We're going to put these in the order that he released the albums. So they're not in alphabetic order. They'll be in chronological order based on year. All right. Now, for the artist, I was going to just not even put that in there because all these albums are by Garth Brooks, but I decided to put it in there like that for two reasons. Number one, it's possible, what if later he, creates an album with somebody or he produces an album for somebody. So that was one reason. The other reason, and again, I'm giving you more Garth Brooks history than you probably care about, but years ago he created an album and he changed his name for the album. He called himself Chris Gaines, and he was supposedly a rock star. There's a story behind it. I don't know what it is. I don't care what it is. All right. Um, the year is just that. We could have made that a date time field, but it works out just fine being a year. The URL is basically what I did, just so you see this, is, to try to keep it as simplistic as possible here. I went out to wikipedia.org, all right, and I went in here and I typed in Garth Brooks, all right, and grabbed that, and it started going down, and you'll notice here, where are they? It's a little further down, discography, there we go. These are the albums that I chose, all right. So if I chose here's his initial album, Garth Brooks. So if I clicked on that, all right, there was the URL. I grabbed the URL because that's the album cover, and I grabbed, basically the beginning of this. That became the description. All right. Well, you can see when it was released. So that was the year of 1989. All right. I guess I could have put the length down or something. I didn't. I just pretty much kept it like that. All right. So that's how I went through, and I did this on my own. But for each one of these, all right, if you count them, there's 15 of them. And that's how I grabbed everything. Again, I'm just trying to show you exactly what my mindset was going through this. All right. And like I said, so I showed you where I got the name from and all the other information. So that's good for now for in here. And I'm going to just do a file and a save all. And I'm going to close this because I don't really need it anymore. Right now, at least, I don't need it anymore. All right. Then I want to come in and I want to create one more class inside of this music library. All right. And the class I'm creating in here, it's going to be called albums with an S, DAO. And the DAO stands for Data Access Object. And the reason for creating this class is it's kind of going to be a conduit or a go-between the database and the actual code. For right now, literally after we create this, it's going to have one line of code in it. And it's going to be very similar to what we've done in the past. We're going to be creating a list of albums. That'll be the one line of code that we put in there. All right. So I want you to, again, please right mouse click where it says Music Library, choose Add, and we'll go down to Class again. All right. And this will be called capital A, small LBUMS, so albums, capital D, capital A, capital O. One more time. The word albums, ALBUMS, with a capital A and nothing else capitalized, then appended onto the end of it, DAO, all in caps for Data Access Object. All right, and then click Add, and there it is. And again, I'm going to make this public. All right. And like I said, this is similar to where we had that song manager class that I showed you in the link thing that we did. All right. Not exactly the same, but it's very similar. So I'm going to put in here, I'm going to actually make this public so that I'm able to manipulate it all over the place. It's going to be a list of type album. And you'll notice right now the IntelliSense is kicked in and it put that in for me. We will call it albums. All right, and we're going to say that it is equal to a new, in fact, it grabbed it for me, list of type album. That's literally, for now, literally that's all we want to put into this class. So we've come in here and we've created a class library that we called music library. And we created two classes, one called album that had our 6 fields in it. All right. Those fields again being ID, album name, album artist, album year, album URL, and album DESC. Now, the first field that was in there, I called it ID. We could have called it album ID. All right. But it kind of, that's what most people just on here, they just call it ID. All right. And this was the second one that we created. So again, I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to close this one. All right, and now we're going to start on here. But one last thing I want us to do before we start on here. Right now, this particular program knows nothing about the album class. It knows nothing about the album DAO class because they're in a library. It literally, this is an island unto itself right now. It doesn't know that any of this other stuff exists. So I want to remember, it's been a while since I've done this, and I think I'm going to do it the right way, but we're going to check. I'm going to right mouse click on the name of the project, which is Garth Brooks Database App, and I'm going to go down to Add, and I'm going to go over to Reference. So I right mouse clicked on the name of the project, which is Garth Brooks Database App. Then what came up in that context menu is I chose Add, and then underneath Add, I chose Reference, like that. All right, so yours might not look like mine, and if it doesn't, that's okay. Yours might look like this. It could look like anything, but hopefully you've got something in here in this list that says shared projects, and then projects up above it. All right, or just projects. And my hope is when you click projects, it shows you the music library. All right, and if you check it and you click OK, that still didn't do anything except it let this know that, hey, there's a music library that you can use. Now, in order to be able to actually use that, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to just right mouse click and choose view code. And I'm going to put a new using statement in here. I'm going to type in using. Notice when I type in MUSIC, of course it isn't finding it. Why isn't it finding it? It should be finding it. No, I'm not sure why it's not. But we should be able to come in there and do a using music library. So let's see. Let me go back and look again. Add reference, and it's checked. Well, for whatever reason, it's not going to recognize this right now. So it's going to give me an error. So let's see what it says here. Show potential fixes. Remove unnecessary things, suppress. All right. Not sure why it's giving me that error, but for now, at least, I'll leave it out. All right. I'm not worried about it. We're going to get it back. All right. I have total faith in that. So let's go into this and let's look at it from here. All right. Well, there's actually two things that we want to do here. By default, all right, by default, this is going to be, one of two forms that are in here. So let's take this one that's right here and let's make this our splash screen. All right, we will take this one and we will make it our splash screen. So is there a lot of code we have to put in? There's a bit. It's not a ton, but there's a bit. All right. And I'm not going to worry about prettying it up, and I'm not going to worry about putting anything in here yet. Let's first do the preliminary type of work that we want to do, such as, well, let's right mouse click on the name of the form and let's rename it. and I'm going to call it FRM splash screen. And the S in splash and the S in screen, I'm going to capitalize. So FRM splash screen.cs. When I hit enter, it'll beep at me. Oh, that's lovely. Boy, this is a fantastic start, isn't it? It says the designer could not be shown because none of the classes were there when it was designed. Good gosh. This is interesting. I've never had this happen before, but hey, there's always a first time. So let me go back. Let me go back to this. I'm actually wondering, it shouldn't be anything problem that I've got the other one open, but I'll close the other one anyway. All right, I don't know what's going on here. All right, this is what I'm going to do. If am I right in assuming you did not have this error?
No, I did actually.
You did. All
Yeah.
right, I'm going to go back. This is weird. So I'm going to go back. I'm just going to kill this project and I'm going to start it over again. So I'm not going to save. I don't know what happened there. I've never seen that before, but it's okay. All right. So I'm in here in this Garth thing, and I'm going to get rid of what was in there. All right. So I've got this empty folder again. I'm going to start it all over because I don't know what happened. All right. And we'll do it the other way. Totally fine. All right. So I'm going to start a new project. So let me stop, close the installer there. I don't need this open. Oh, it's doing an update on mine. I didn't ask for it to do an update. I asked for it to wait, but it's doing it now anyway. That could be what screwed mine up too. I don't know. But if the same thing happened to you, I wouldn't think that would be it. So I've got to give this a second because it's only about 10% of the way through here. It says it looks like you're installing or modifying another product right now. Please wait until all the operations are finished and try again. All right. just to be sure when we start up again, I'm going to even remove this folder that I made called Garth, and I'm just going to create another one. I'll just call it Garth Brooks. I don't think I have one by that name. And I don't. Well, it still has almost 100 packages to load here. It's about 80% through. And now it's speeding up a little bit. Installing this might take a while. So. All right, as far as I can tell, it's all the updating's been done. So I'm going to again come in here, start Visual Studio. Again, create a new project. Again, it will be a Windows Forms app. I'm going to call it Garth Brooks. How about just Garth Brooks app? And we will change the location to where I just created the new folder called Garth Brooks. And I will call the project Garth Brooks, or the solution Garth Brooks solution. In fact, rather than app here, just so there's no problem, I'll call it Garth Brooks project, which will be saved in the Garth Brooks folder, and Garth Brooks solution. That should be fine. All right, and I'm going to click create. All right. Okay, and we'll start working on it this way. That's totally fine. All right. The first thing that I want to do, just to make sure that I have these in there, and I'd like you to do the same here, is to go up to your project and right mouse click on it and choose add and choose new folder. All right, third one down. So right mouse click on the project, choose add and new folder. We're going to call this images, all lowercase. All right, so as of right now, it is totally empty. All right. Now I'm going to assume, or if while I'm talking, otherwise you can do it, that you will take that folder that I sent you this morning and you will unzip it, because one of the things that folder has in it are all the images that we need. All right. So I've already got it unzipped. So I'm going to right mouse click on the images folder. I'm going to choose add and I'm going to choose existing item. And then I've got to iterate or work my way back to my desktop here. And there's the folder called images. Now, when I double click on it, it shows nothing, because by default, it thinks I want to show C# files. So I've got to click down here and I've got to choose image files. And once I do that, there's all 16 of my image files. I went back and resized everything to a size I thought would look pretty decent. All right, we'll take a look at that maybe in a bit. All right, but I'm going to just highlight all of them. So it's Garth 00 through Garth 15. So I've now highlighted all of them. I'm going to click add. And if it worked, you should now see in here. So I should now have in my images folder Garth 00, Garth 01, all the way through Garth 15. And as you can see, they're all there. All right. So, I mean, like I said, that's one of the first things that I wanted to do. Now, just so you see this, they all have the same path except for the name at the end. If I right mouse click on any one of these, I'll just grab the first one and I'm going to click copy full path. Then if I go in and I bring up that full path, I'm just going to bring it up here in Notepad just so you can see it. And I'm going to make it smaller so it doesn't fly off the screen. But if I do this, that's where it is. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is yours should be similar, but of course, yours won't be C:\users \JP Scott. Yours will be whatever your path is. All right. So we are going to basically now put all this stuff and make it available on screen. All right. Well, eventually we're going to want to put in picture boxes here where we'll be able to put in the images. I don't care about that right now. I'm going to close my images folder. I'm going to right mouse click on here and I'm going to choose view code to actually bring up the code. All right. So what do we want to do in here? Well, we technically have, there are 16 pictures in there. There's 00 through 15. All right. So there are 16 total pictures in there. So the first thing that I'm going to do is underneath here where I've got public form is I'm going to create a global constant. There's only one, and I called it num elements. And I set it equal to 16. All right. It's gray right now, of course, because we're not using it yet. All right. I'm also going to have a global array. All right. You can call it whatever you like. I just called it images. So I said string, bracket, bracket, images. And since there are 16 of them in here, I put them on multiple lines. So I said equal, and then I just put the curly brace. Whoops, I did there. I just put the curly brace here, hit enter and put it there, and then put a semicolon on the end. So now I'm going to have to drop these in. Well, I'm going to go back to this right here that I just showed you, this C:, etc. I'm going to highlight all of it, and I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. All right. Now it has to be within double quotes. And when I first put it in, it's going to give me an error. Don't worry about it. We'll fix it right away. So I'm going to put in double quotes and then a comma. And in between those double quotes, I'm going to paste that in. So that is, all right, and I can make it smaller so you can see all of it, but that is the path to that first image. Now, it's going to give me an error, or I guess in here it automatically put in the // So it put in 2 slashes. If you did yours, and if for some reason it did it like this, that's totally fine. The other thing that we can do is we can always go in, and if we only wanted to have 1 slash, you'll notice when I put in just 1 slash, I'm going to start getting errors. We talked about this in an earlier chapter. All right, so if I do all this, boom, I've got errors up the wazoo here. But if I just put an @ at the beginning, all those errors go away. It doesn't matter really which way you do it. All right. And I don't know if that's something fairly new because I hadn't seen that before where it put them in with the double, but that's fine. Then I don't have to put the @ in there. All right. So let me put the rest. Whoops. Try that again. There, like this. There we go. So that'll be my first image. And I'm just going to grab this. I'm going to cut it and I'm going to put it in here 16 times. All right. So those are all my images once I change the number here. So this will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You get the picture. All right. So those are all 15 then of the images, and you should do the same thing. Again, your path will be different. All right. So now I've gone in and I put in my images. Okay. That's all fine, no problem. All righty. And in just a moment, we're going to have a place to load those images. So right now they're not doing anything. They're fine, but they're not doing anything. The good news is what I should see is when I bring this up here, so I don't have any errors. All right. And if you have errors, again, go in and try to fix them right away. And as I've already mentioned, if you put an @ sign here, in fact, if you wanted to put these with forward slashes, okay, I think if you use an @ sign there and have just one forward slash, that'll work too. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can put this stuff in here. Okay. All right. So that's the first thing. Just so you know, in just a couple minutes, what we're going to do too is we're going to come in here. All right, we're going to come in here and we are going to set it up, so to speak, so that in the load event, we're going to load all those, but we need a place to load them. So the first thing is, let's go back like we talked about before, and I'm going to click on here. I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to rename this. Hopefully I won't get an error when I do it now, but I'm going to put an FRM splash screen, hit enter. That's what I should get. When you rename, would you like to do basically rename all the internal files? Yes, I would. All right, that's what should have happened the first time. Don't know why it didn't, but it didn't. All right, so I'll tell you what, let's do this next, and it'll probably take until our first break. And that is, let's come in here and let's set this form up. It's a little bit more intricate, all right, as far as what we put in here. But this is our splash screen. All right. And it's FRM splash screen. That's the only thing that we've done with it right now. Okay. I want to start doing a couple more things. If you want to keep it gray, some of you keep all your programs gray, that's fine. I don't like that. I don't think it shows well on screen. So as I always do, I'm going to go to back color and I'm going to change it. Now in the example I showed you before, it was yellow. So let's make this, I don't know, let's make that orange there. Okay, that's fine. All right. The next thing that I'm going to do here is I don't like the fact that it says form 1 up there. So right now, the only thing I've got in here is my form, but I'm going to go down to text and I'm going to change it. You can put anything you want to put in here. All right. I just put in this. I put in Garth Brooks SQL Server database app dash splash screen. All right, a little hard for you to see probably, but it's Garth Brooks SQL Server Database App hyphen splash screen. All right, so there's the first thing. The next thing is this is going to have to be a lot bigger to hold everything we want it to hold. So clicking on this to make sure that it's highlighted, and it is, it's the only thing there, but I'm going to go over to the size property that's right here. And right now, it says, and again, yours could differ, it might be different. It doesn't matter if it is, because we're about to change it. But mine says 816 by 489. So it's 816 pixels wide, 489 pixels tall. Well, I want to change that. It's going to be pretty big. And I'm going to make this 1559 for the width and 849 for the height. And once I do that and I hit enter, you can see it's now taking up pretty much. All right, you can see how much room it's taking up here. Not going to say the entire screen, but it's taking up a lot of what we have in here. That's what I want. All right. And the other thing I'm going to do, just because we might as well do it now, and that is I'm going to set the Windows start position, which is the default. I'm going to set it to center screen. So we've done virtually nothing right now, but that's fine. And if I can, I'm going to do a file save all and just run it just to make sure it comes up in the middle of the screen. So there it is. So that's what we've got right now. Not very much, but that's fine. All right, then I'm going to start filling in the stuff that I want in here. The first thing I'm going to want to put in here is some kind of a title. All right, so you can't see the toolbox right now, so I'm going to do my view and toolbox. All right, move this over a bit, and I thought I was pinning it, but I unpinned it, and now it's pinned there. All right, so I'm going to move this over, and I want to bring out a label first of all. All right, you know all the trials and tribulations of a label, and what I mean is that we typically want to go in here and we want to go to auto size, set that to true. All right, and this is going to be a pretty big label, so I'm just going to do this now. We can change it later if we have to. All right, but I'm going to set a few things up right away. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to set the location. And that location is going to be 48,25 and hit enter. Didn't move much, but it did move a little bit. And the size, so I'm going to go down to the size here, and the size is going to be 1454.84. 1454.84. That didn't change. It changed a little bit. All right, so you can see that in here now. Okay, try to kind of center it on the screen. And let's change the text that's in here. Okay. In fact, let's change the name first because we typically do that. This will be the title. So it'll be LBL title. All right. And then let's come down to the text, which now says label 1. And we're going to change this to Garth Brooks SQL Server Database Application. Hit enter. All right. You can already see how bad that looks. So let's change the font size. And normally I make it 20, but maybe that'll be big enough. I don't know, but I'm going to try 28, see if that's too big or not. That's not bad. I can even make it bigger than that. But I also want to change the text align and make that middle left. I'm sorry, middle center right there. And let's make this bigger too. Make that text a little bit bigger. So right now it's set to 28. Let's try 48 and see if it takes that. All right, that looks pretty good. So Garth Brooks database application. That's the first thing then that we put in. All right. And we put it in, so far we've created our form, we renamed it, we resized it, and then we did the same thing with the label, which is the first thing that we put in here. All right. Then the next thing that I want to do, if you remember, we're going to want to put in these images. And when you put in images, you typically use the picture box control to put in images. All right. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start by just putting in the 1. So I'm going to drag it and put it right over here. And I'm going to resize it a little bit, but I'm going to give you the dimensions that I used in just a second. Now, if you decide, and I've done this before, that you want to come in here and you want to change the background color here so that it's darker or a different color, hey, it's your program. I'm just going to leave it the way it is, but I'm going to come here and I'm going to call this thing, this is my first picture box. I'm going to call this PB for picture box 00. That's it. I'm going to keep it real simple. PB00. All right. And the location for that picture box is going to be 38, 156. So you can see it moved over a little bit. And the size is going to be 248, 641. And the only way I got this was by playing with it. That's it. All right. So that's the first one. Now it gets easier in that we're going to add the other 15 boxes. They're all going to be the same size. All right. They're not going to be the size of this one, but they're all going to be the same size. So I'm going to add the first one. and just throw it right there. And that'll become PB01 for picture box 01. And I'm going to make this one, all right, as far as its location, I want it to be it's almost perfect, but I want it to be 354, 156. So it's right there, hardly moved at all. But for the size, and this will be the size of all 15 of these, it'll be 159, 153. So it'll be that big. And again, we're going to go 5 across and 3 down. So I'm going to make 15 of these right now. All right. And we'll worry about moving them, etc., in just a bit. But I'm going to do Control C to copy, Control V to paste. And there's 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And I'm going to size these so I can place the other ones right below them. All right. So just taking them from the top. I've already done this one. All right. That was again 354, 156 for the location and 159, 153 for the size. So the only thing we have to change on these, the only thing is the location. We don't have to change the size because they're all the same size. So this one will be the second picture box. So it's going to be PB02 and it's going to be at 599, 156. All right. And it looks like I'm going to have to move these over just a little bit, and that's fine. Okay, so these are going to end up moving over in just a second. Okay, so here's the next one. And you might have already guessed. So this is PB00, PB01, PB02, which will make that one PB03. All right, and that one will be at 859, 156 for the location. Right, it's very much butting up against the one next to it. We'll fix that in just a second. All right, so here's the next one. This will be PB04. All right, and the location for that one will be 1103, 156. Okay, and then we have one more to do. That's this one, which will be PB05. All right, and the location on that one will be 1343, 156. Again, feel free to space these out any way you want to. So these will be the first 5 albums in just a moment. All right. Now I'm going to grab just this first one and I'm going to copy it to the clipboard and paste it down. All right. And we're going to put in just this one and then I'll line the other ones up with it. So this is 6. All right. So the location, well, it'll be PB06. And the location for that will be 354, 345. 354, 345. So it's right there. Now it shouldn't be too hard to grab this, copy and paste, and put that one here. Paste again, and put that one there. Paste again, and put that one there. And one last time. And put that one here. All right. I can go back and double check those, but they're pretty good where they are. Finally, I'm going to put the last one in here, or the last row, I should say. All right, and I'm going to move this one down. Let's make sure I probably didn't change the name on all these, so let's do that. Okay, so we've got here PB06. This should be PB07. This should be PB08. This one will be PB09. And the last one, which is currently out of view, right there, will be PB10. All right, so those are done. This will be PB11. All right, and its position for PB11 will be 354, 537. There's that one. All right, so I'm going to copy and paste it, and that will be PB12. I did here, but it's something. Okay. This will be PB13. This, whoops, that'll be 13. That'll be 14. And finally, that will be 15. Let me go back and rename these now. Some reason it was kind of hung there, but I don't think it is anymore. So that's PB11, PB12, PB13, 14, and 15. All right. So those are all done. So we've now gone in, we put in our label, and we put in 16 different picture boxes. There's only 2 more things we have to do, and then we're done with this page and we'll take a break. We want to add 2 buttons here. All right, and they're basically going to be about here. And it's going to be bigger, of course, but it'll be kind of in here someplace and then in here someplace. All right, so there's the second one. So I'm going to just play with the sizing, etc., on both of them. All right, so let's set the size for both. We can't set the location for both at once, but we can set the size. So I'm going to come down here to size. And I want the size to be 178/64. All right, so both of those are now set. That's good. I'm going to come over to here, and the location of this first one will be 697/33. All right, that's fine. Don't worry about it. This one's going to move too over here someplace. And the one for the second one will be 983/733. All right. And then all that's left in here is just to go in and let's change the size of the font. And as I always do, I'm going to make it 20, bold and Arial. All right, whoops, in Arial, click OK, there we go. And excuse me, as far as names, all right, or whatever you want to call these, all right, the first one, we're just going to call this is going to go to the main page, and this is going to exit. All right, so this first one that's right here, we'll call it just what it is, which is BTN main page. And we'll give it the text of main page. And the second one will be, the text will be exit. And the name will be BTN exit. So our interface has now been built. I'm going to do a Control A to highlight everything. And I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to lock my controls. All right. Again, I could change the color on all these. I'm not worried about that, but I should be able to run it now. And it may or may not show those picture boxes, but it should show everything else. There we go. All right. Again, it's not perfect. I don't know how well, these don't look like they're very well aligned, but we can always change that later. I don't really care. All right. Okay. Now you haven't stopped me, so I'm taking for granted that you were able to keep up with me. All right. And that yours looks at least fairly like mine does. All right. And again, if yours don't match up as far as the location, etc., play with that. Do whatever you want to do with it. It's not a big thing one way or the other. All right. But I will tell you that part of what I'm going to be looking for um, when I give you the requirements is, again, like I said, originality. I want this to be yours. All right. So you can set this up any way that you want to set it up. I'm going to do a file, save all, just so I've got everything. All right. It is 9:04. Let's come back, please, at 9:15.
Stop using your own money to pay for your groceries. Seniors who are 64 years or older can get a food allowance card and they can use it in Walmart. I just got back from Walmart, pay for all my
All right, it's 9:15. The first thing I want to do is make these buttons operational. And right now, when I click this one, I want to go to the main page. Well, we don't have a main page, so this is the only form we have. So I'm going to go in and add another form right now. So I'm going to click on the form and then right mouse click on the name of the project and choose add and go down to, there it is, Windows form. And I'm just going to call this one right away, FRM main page. All right. I'm not worried about anything with it right now. And it's going to be a really simple form. We're literally going to be able to design this one in 5 minutes because it's only going to have 3 controls on it. It won't take any time at all. All right. So now I'm going to jump back into my splash screen. Whoops, to my splash screen design here. And we're going to put in the code for the main page. And then when we get done, we'll put in the code for the exit. The exit, I'm going to grab the stuff like I usually do. All right. So as far as the main page, we could put this in another routine, but there's only 3 lines of code we have to put in here. So I'm going to put in here form. You can call this whatever you want. I just called it main form equals new FRM main page. All right. Then this dot hide. And finally, main form dot show dialog. That's everything for this routine. So what this should do is when we click the button that says main page, all right, it should create a new form, hide the current form, and show the new form. In fact, I was just thinking about this. You know what we can do? Because we've not done this all semester. Let's add a menu structure up here to the top. And since we're going to add a menu structure, let's put this in its own routine. All right. And I'll just call it, I don't know, show main form. All right, we'll put that right below here. So private void, show main form. All right, and we'll just paste that in. Okay. Just because first of all, it doesn't take much to actually create a menu structure because this is very simple with just 2 forms, but we've not done it. So we should get that done before the semester's over. So, excuse me, let's see if that works. Let's do a file save all and let's run the program. We don't have these in yet. I did make them darker color, but when I click here, I should go to the other form. And I do. That's good. So that's working. All right. And let's put in our code for exiting the program. So I always call this exit program or not. All right. We'll put that right down here. Private void exit program or not. All right. And I'm going to grab it like I always do. So I'll paste that in right here. And that should now be operational. So let's again double check. All right, so we can go to our main page. That's good. And we can exit. No, exit, yes. So that's good. So all that stuff is done. So now let's go in and let's put in the code that's going to actually load these images in. All right. And then we'll be done with our splash screen. So in order to do this, I'm going to double click on the form itself to bring up the form's load event. Now I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to give you all the code. All right. Then I'm going to tell you, and this is going to involve some work on your part, how I want you to do it. And if you say I don't understand, give me just a second here, okay? And we'll go over exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to say here, PB00, these are all going to be the same, dot image equals image dot from file images 0. And if you don't know what that did, all right, this is the easiest way to show you. I'll come right back to it, but let me do a file save all and let me run the program. Now we've just added our first image. All right. So all I want to do here is I'm going to copy this. So I've now got that in there 15 times. I'm going to change all these accordingly. And you know what these are called already. It's PB00 through PB15. So I did add one less than I should have. So let me go and add one more here. All right, and these will be images 0, images 1, 2, etc., all the way down to 15. All right, I don't think I screwed up any with my numbering, but we're going to find out right now. So File, Save All, and let's just run it. And there it is. All right, again, it's nothing that's fantastic. I'm not going to lie, though. I think it looks nice, and that's the most important thing. And so I've got that all loaded, and I can go to the main page, which we're going to fix up in just a moment. All right, so this was the code. That there. So I'll give you a second to put that in. And I think you'd agree, taking a look at it, that's 16 lines of code. All right. There should be a better way of doing that. I think there should be a better way of doing that. In fact, I think that, and this is what I'd like you to start thinking about, and that is how to code this more professionally. And what I mean by that is one thing that we could have created that we didn't, but I think, and again, this will take some looking and some Googling on your part. I think we could have made an array of 16 picture boxes and then basically tried to set up so that inside of a for loop, ideally, we would only have to write a line like this once inside of the for loop to fill it up. So I'm going to ask that you try to do that. All right. I did give it a little look myself, and there's a lot of resources out there, some good, some not so good. But I thought, well, I'd show you how to do this. And no, I've got to put something in this particular assignment that's going to make you think, not just changing colors and fonts and whatever, but that's going to make you do some work as well. All right. Okay. So that's that. So what we did was, again, we came in here, and I'll get rid of all these that are not colored or that are grayed out, because I don't need any of them. You can leave them in if you want, it doesn't matter. All right, we needed the system drawing for the images. System, because it's just naturally brought in there. And when you're working with forms, you get this one. All right, so we came in, we had our global constant, because that's the number of picture boxes or elements. That's the number of elements in that array right there. All right, then we set up that array. We put everything in there. That's all taken again. It's all taken right from what's inside of this images folder. So Garth 00 through Garth 15. And in the same way, Garth 00 through Garth 15. All right, so we went in and did all that. Then we set up a second form, and we've got show main form right there. All right, and we are going to be able to, as it says there, show the main form. So this is instantiating right here. This is instantiate a new form, hide the current form, and show the new form. All right. Now, before we go on, which we're going to do in just a moment, but before we go on, let's come in here and let's literally, all right, let's set up a very simple menu structure. And I want to show you how to do that because we've never done that before. And it's really and truly not difficult to do. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to come over here and down in my tools that are over here, I'm going to find menu strip. All right. And I'm going to take it and drag it and stick it right up here and then let go. Come on, let go. There we go. And believe it or not, I've just created a menu. Now there's not much in it right now, but we've started to do that. And what do we have in here? We've got main page and we've got exit. Well, let's do it like this. Let's make this 3 wide. Okay. So right here, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to literally type in main page, just like that. And then next to it, I'm going to type in, I'll tell you what, let's put a help in there. Help. And then right to the right of that, I'm going to type in exit. All right. Now, this is totally non-operational. It does not work right now. But by just putting that in, we now have a menu. All right. Now, when you create menu items like this, good, bad, indifferent, whatever you want to call it, it kind of gives them crummy names. So this one is called main page tool strip menu item, which in my opinion, at least, is way too long a name. All right. So I'm going to change this from main page tool strip menu item to just main page menu item. You don't have to do that, but I changed it from, again, main page tool strip menu item to main page menu item. And notice, even though when I put in their main page and put a blank space between main and page, you can't have that in the name of a control. All right. So it went and changed it accordingly. All right. Then this next one, I'm going to change from help tool strip menu item to just help menu item. All right. And the last one, which is exit, I'm going to change that from exit tool strip menu item to just exit menu item. All right. Whoops. So now my names have changed. That's good. I can always come back in and bring these down to make sure I didn't forget anything here. I'm looking. Well, I didn't change the name of the menu strip, but I'm not doing anything with it. So leaving it called menu strip 1 is really okay. All right. Now, the good news for all of us is that menus, just like buttons, they respond to a click event. So in other words, if I double click here where it says main page, notice what it brings up. Main page menu item. Well, didn't I write a routine for that? Didn't we write one? It's called show main form. All right. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put in here show main form. Now I'm going to do a file save. You've already seen this, that if I come here and I click main page, I go there. You saw that already. But now for the first time, when we run this, I can now click main page here and I go to the other page. That's how easy it is to implement a menu structure. All right. Now, didn't do this before, but let's, you know, I'm not going to put a help button in here, but I'm going to ask that you put in a help right here. And for right now, okay, I'm going to double click on it to, come on, double click on it to bring it up. I don't know why it's not coming up, but it's not. Oh, because the program's still running. So let's double click on the help. All right. And all I'm going to put in here is right now is a message box dot show, and it's going to say you are to create a help menu or a help section, something like that, for this program. All right. And for a title, we'll just put you're doing this. All right. And we'll just put an OK button for now. And that's not an error. So yeah, information will work fine. All right. We don't even need a return on there, I don't think, but we'll find out right now. So I'm going to do a file save all. and I'm going to run the program again. And well, let's click help. There you go. You are to create a help section for this program. Click OK and boom. So the only one that's not left is exit. So let's do that one. Well, we've already got that. It's called exit program or not, remember? All right. So again, let's do a file save all. And let's run this. And now if we come up here, okay, we can exit from here as well. All right. So that wasn't very much work. It took me about 5 or 10 minutes to explain it to you and demonstrate it. We didn't have to change those names. All right. I just like it to be a little smaller. I don't see the need for tool strip, but we could have left it in there without hurting anything. Now, if you want to, on yours, if you want to add another button in between these or whatever for help. So if you want a main page here and then a help here and then an exit here or something, that's fine, but you don't have to. You can, but you don't have to. But I would like you to implement up here the help, some kind of a help thing. I don't want it, in other words, when I run it, I don't want it to say this. You are to create a help section because that's what you're supposed to be doing. All right. So with all that said, let's come in and let's build the other form right now, which is our main screen or whatever, main page, whatever we called it here. Again, this will not take long. All right. So let me close this for now. And I'll even close this one for now. All right. I don't need that out. I'm right here now. Okay, good. And let's close that. Let's bring this down. There we go. And we've got our splash screen pretty much done. We've already got it renamed when we created it. So we've got our FRM right there, FRM page. Okay, main page. And let's put a couple things in here. Okay, so what do I mean? Well, let's change the size. In fact, I'll just do it the way I usually do it. So that is, I'm going to come up here and I like to be the same color. So I already took the other one and made it that orangish. So now we've got that. Now they're the same color. All right, let's make it the same size as the other one. And you may or may not remember that size, but it is 1559 for the width and 848 for the height. It made it a lot bigger, moved it over, etc. That's totally fine. Let's change our start position to center screen. All right. And let's put some text in there also. All right, because I don't like it to say FRM main page. So I'm now going to put in Garth Brooks SQL server site hyphen, the other one said hyphen splash screen. This will say hyphen main page. All right. And believe it or not, we're almost done. We're going to add 2 buttons and a data grid view. So this is not going to take long. I wanted to show you something. This is not a gee whiz type of thing. All right. But I never saw this in what I'm about to show you. I never saw it in a book before. I'm just telling you that. I've never seen this in a book. So I want to go back to my other form. And as you can see, and you know this already because we just did this, okay, I've got 2 buttons in there. Well, I want 2 buttons in the new form here. So I'm going to grab these 2 buttons. I'm going to copy them to the clipboard. I'm going to go over to my other form and I'm going to paste them in. I think that's cool that you can do that kind of stuff between forms. Now, they're locked and I don't want them locked, so I'm going to unlock them there. All right, and I'm going to put one about over here and one over there. Okay, so this one is just going to say load data because that's going to show everything in our grid view in just a minute. And this one is going to say splash screen. It's going to have us go back to the other screen. So let's fix all that stuff right now. So I'm going to click on this first one here, and I'm going to change the name of it from BTN main page. I want to call this one BTN load data. We can call it anything we want. All right. But again, I'm going to come down here to the form text And the same way, I'm going to make that load data. All right. I did have it in a location on the screen. You can follow mine or not. It's up to you. So my location here is 70, 72. So you can see I moved it over just a little bit. Okay. And the size already is set. Okay. And so is the text. All right. This next one, I'm going to just move it. It'll be somewhere over here. All right. But this one is now done. I've changed the name. I've changed its location. So this one right here, I'm going to change the name from BTN exit to BTN splash screen, because that's the one that's going to send me back to my other page. And I will set the text in here as well, not exit. It'll say splash screen. There. I made it one word. Doesn't really matter. Okay. And this one I put at 271.72. Okay, so I did have it moved down a little bit. No, that's the size. Location. Oh, this looks wrong. So that's 70.72. And this one, oh, this is 70.193. Okay. Then the only other control to put in here, and we'll put our code in here in just a minute, but the only other thing to put in here is a data grid view. Again, you can look under all controls and find the data grid view, all Windows controls, data grid view right there, or you can just look under data and the data grid view is right there. I'm just going to take it there and drag it out, and I'm going to make it bigger. We're not going to worry right now about using this smart tag and putting that stuff. We're not going to worry about that now. And the reason we're not is, for now, until next week, we're not going to be loading our data from a database. We're going to be loading it right from the program itself. All right. So the location for this, well, let's change the name. It's a data grid view, and that's way too long a name. So I'm going to call it DGV for data grid view, DGV, all lowercase, and then albums with a capital A. So DGV albums, the location, and this is kind of being funky here. The location, it's automatically moving it to here, and it's not letting me move it back. Same thing happened before when we did this. Let's see if I go back to here. Oh my gosh. There it is. Okay, so the location on this is going to be 271.72. So you can see it's pushed over, and the size is 11. Well, let me go down there. The size is 1193. That's the width. And the height, I originally made it 645, but then I knocked it down to 445. So it looks like this. So that is the whole interface. All right. Let's lock it into place. All right. And we're going to do our load data in just a moment. But before we do that, let's do the other one, because there's not much to do here. This is the splash screen. All right. And for the splash screen, we're going to do pretty much what we did over here. All right. So I'll change this from show main form to show splash screen. and we haven't written it yet. So let's come down here and do a private void show splash screen. And again, I'll just steal all that code from over here and just modify it accordingly. All right. So we're going to say form. Again, you can call this whatever you want. Splash screen equals new FRM, and this will be splash screen. All right, this dot hide, and then splash screen dot show dialog. All right, let's see if it works. So file, save all. Let's run it. We should be able to bop back and forth between forms now. All right, so here is our main page, back to splash screen. Main page, back to splash screen. So that works. That's good. All right, let's exit. All right, so we've got all of that done. It wasn't that big a thing. Now, what I'm going to ask, and again, I'm starting to write requirements for you, but in this other one that we did, we added this menu. All right, I'm going to go ask that you go in and you add a menu in the splash screen, or the main page, I should say, in here. Okay. And if you just want to put two things in there, the load data and the splash screen, that's okay. You can put a help in there, but you really don't need one. All right, but something along those lines. All right, so now we've got that done. So what's left? Well, we're going to try again, and I'm going to hope, because we've done a whole bunch of work in here, and I'm going to hope now that it doesn't all go for naught, and we're going to go in and we're going to try to do what we had started this lecture with earlier. All right, so in other words, I'm going to close all this stuff. Close everything that I've got open right now. It's all closed now. I'm going to move this over. All right. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create those same classes that we created before. But we're first going to try to go in and create a class library. So again, I'm going to right mouse click on Garth Brooks solution up here, and I'm going to choose add, and I'm going to choose new project. And again, come up here then and type in class library. All right. Find the one for C that's got C# in it. All right. I'm going to double click on that. And again, I'm going to try it the same way I did it before. So it's a music, we can call it Garth library. It really and truly does not matter. The advantage of calling it music library is if at a later time I decided I wanted to create something like this, but let's say for another artist. All right. You know, my daughter's a big Beyonce fan. So if I wanted to do Beyonce, all I'd have to do then would be to come in here and swap out all the Garth Brooks information for Beyonce information. But the classes that we're creating could still be used in the same manner. All right. So we've got music library. I think I spelled that right. I'm looking here. Looks like it. And I'm going to click next and create. I'm wondering, now that I look at this, let's see. It says there are no usable controls. Yeah, I get all that. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Okay. I'm going to remove this. I want to show you why I'm going to remove it. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to create it again immediately, but I want to show you why. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click delete. Should be a delete in here. Let's see. Let's see. Can I delete these? No. Can I delete this? Yes. All right. I'm wondering if the reason it didn't work, and I didn't notice this before, is when we created this, we were using .NET version 4.8.7. This looks like it was 6.2, which could be what was screwing that up. We'll find out in a moment. I removed that class that was in here, the one called class 1. And just like we did before, I'm going to right mouse click. I don't need this open. I'm going to right mouse click on my music library. I'm going to choose add, and I'm going to go down to the bottom and choose class. And this first one again will be album singular, capital A, little l, little b, little u, little m dot cs. And this is just exactly what we did before. I'm going to make that public, and I'm going to put in my 6 fields. So public int ID with a get set, public string album name with a get set, public string album artist with a get set, year, URL, and finally DESC for description. All right, that should be everything. It's exactly the same stuff that we had in there before. All right. All right. They do show in here, it says non-nullable property. This is for all these. I'm looking why it's giving me that underline. It says show potential fixes. All right. And it says we can declare this as being nullable. All right. All that means is we can come in here, and after we put this in, we can put a question mark there. If we put question marks by all those should go away. All right. So I'll put those there just so they go away, and then I'll explain what those are. I don't think we're going to need them in the overall scheme of things, but that's fine. Putting that question mark there means that it is legitimate for album name and or album artist and or album year and or album URL and or album description. Any of them can conceivably be null. That's what that's saying. All right. And if it is, don't flag that as an error. All right. Again, we may end up removing those later. We'll see. But I'm going to do a file, save all. All right. And I'm going to close this class. Then I'm immediately going to go in and I'm going to create my other class, which is going to be that album's DAO. So I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to again choose add, go down to class. All right, again, this will be called albums, again with a capital A, everything else lowercase, albums, plural, DAO for data access object.cs. There you can see it. Oh, did I put the other one as public? Yes. Okay. And this one I want to put as public as well. And remember, this had only one line in it. So let's put in that line, public, list, album, albums, equal, new list of album. This will change this particular class, or at least can change over time. But remember that right now, the idea is we want to get all of our data into the program, but we're not using the database yet. All right. So let me do another file, save all. And let me close this and let me close this. Now, because I want to make sure I'm doing it right, I want to jump back into our book. Okay. Now we finished the book, but back in chapter 16, they showed somewhere in here was how to set up a class library. All right, on page 538. It's about 5 or 6 pages, maybe 7 or 8 pages, but we're going to look at that right now. All right. Again, a class library consists of a collection of related classes. Well, we have 2 in there. When you use a class library, you can use any of the classes in the library without copying them into your project. Well, we had problems when we tried to do that. We're going to see if we can fix that in just a bit. All right. So on the next page, they show the difference between them. And as it says, classes that you create in a Windows Form project must be included in every project that uses them. Classes that are in a library are separate. And I already mentioned, I even gave you the example that, what class libraries allow you to do is have reusable code. All right. So it says one of the benefits is that the size of each project can at least be potentially be reduced. Because if each project holds only a reference to the library rather than the actual code, it's going to be smaller. All right. It can simplify maintenance. So if I wrote a bunch of these music things for a bunch of different artists and I decided I wanted to add a field or change a field or whatever, I only change it in one place. But the major benefit, as it says in the last paragraph on the page here, is that it lets you create reusable code. All right. So they show you these pictures. They're all fine and dandy. To create a class library, you develop a class library project. That's what we did. All right. Then it says in there, when you build the project, Visual Studio creates a DLL, which is a dynamic link library file for the class library. It's this DLL that you refer to from any application that needs to use the class library. Okay. So how to create it? I want to see and make sure we didn't miss any steps here. So to create it, it says you use the class library template. That's what we did. We entered the name. All right, we didn't have to enter the location because it was already set for us. All right. And as it says, it'll give you that file, that class. It's called class 1. It says you don't really need that. You can get rid of it. So we did. Now in the example they're showing here, all right, they've got a class library called validation library that includes a class named validator. They're doing a different class, but the ideas should be the same. All right. So it says, notice the name of the namespace for this class. When you place classes in the class library, you should create a namespace that indicates the purpose of the classes. They call theirs Muroc.validation. It's not a big thing. I just took the default. All right. When you're done designing a class library, you build it to create an assembly. The assembly for a class library is a DLL file, dynamic link library, or just DLL, okay? All right, so it says when you're done with it, you build it to create an assembly. I never did that. So let's see if we do that, what that does, if anything. All right. So I don't know if I bring this up, I want to do a project build, I think. Build solution, rebuild solution. Build music library. Says no issues found down here. Right there, it says no issues found. So I'm hoping it built that. I'm not sure. Like I said, I've never done this before. I've used it, but I've never gone out and built it by itself before, but I'm trying to follow the book's rules. All right. Yeah, that's no biggie. It talks about debugging information. That's not going to matter at all. It says, as you're developing a class library, it's often useful to create the class library as a project and a solution. That's what we did. That way you can use the project to test the class library. To add a new class library project to us, we've already done this, so we don't have to do that. This is what we want. How to add a reference to a class library. And this is where it's screwed up before. And I'm hoping against all hope that this works now. It says the next figure shows how to add a reference to a class library so you can use its classes in your application. To add it, you use the Reference Manager dialog box, which we'll do in just a second. From here, you can use the Browse page to locate the DLL file for the class library you want to refer to. We're going to try that in just a second. All right. If you have created a class library as a project in the same solution with the Windows Forms app, you can add the reference by selecting the project from the projects page. That's what we're doing because that's what we did. All right. It says then when you have the application working the way you want, you can remove the class library project from the solution and add a reference to the DLL for this project. Let's see how they say to do this. All right, add a reference to the class library by right-clicking Dependencies in the Solution Explorer and then selecting Add Project Reference. So I'm going to try doing that right now. All right. So I'm going to click in here. Okay. Add a reference by right-clicking Dependencies in the Solution Explorer. Well, this is the Solution Explorer. And if I right-click on the project name, neither one of those showed dependencies that I can see. So I'm going to click Add, and I still don't see dependencies, but I do see reference in there, and I thought that was the other way they said you could do it. The Browse page, click the Browse button to locate the DLL, select it and click OK. If the class library is included in the same solution, it is, that project will appear in the list on the projects page. All right, so let's see if that happens. There's the projects page. There it says music library. If I click on it here, all right. It says locate the DLL for the class library. You select it and click OK. It's in here. You can add the reference by just selecting a project name and clicking OK. Once you have it, you can include a using directive. Well, that's what we tried and it didn't take it before. So I'm going to, I don't think if I browse, it's going to do much. Nope. So I've got that here. All right, I'm going to click OK. And it should have put a reference in there. Now, what I should be able to do is to bring up my main page. You've seen this already. All right. And in here, I should be able to right mouse click, view my code, come in here. I don't need these. I'll leave them up there for a second. I'm going to put in using, and it's still not showing my music library. I have no idea why, because when I did this previously, boom, it just worked like that without a problem. So well, it is 10. I'm going to take a look at this error. So it says the type or namespace could not be found. Are you missing a directive or an assembly reference? It says your project cannot be referenced by a project. See, that's the thing, that's the target. So that's where I may have screwed up because I think that this music library was made with version 6.2 and we did ours with version 4.7. Now I'm going to see if we can upgrade the version that we're using. Okay. And that brings me to a point before we go out and take a break or anything else, that when we come in here, I'm just going to show you this. You don't have to do this. Please don't. I'm going to just very quickly start a new Visual Studio. All right. Because what I'm about to tell you is we're going to do something a little different here than we've done it all semester. All right. We've come in here, we've done create a new project. And I told you to select the windowsforums.net that's right here. But if we come up here and we look for Windows Forms and you look for the ones that are up here, all right, there's a Windows Forms app for C#, but this is the one for .NET Framework. I had always read that you should choose that one, but I was watching a video the other night and the gentleman on, it was a YouTube thing, and the guy on there said you should choose this one because it always chooses the newest, most up to date. All right. So in other words, that when you come in here, and I'm not going to keep this, but if I go to next, see it says 6.0. All right. Ours, I believe we're using an older one, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to come in and try to look at that during the break, see if we can fix it because we have to be able to bring that in. All right. And hopefully I can come up with some kind of a solution. After we do that, then there's not a whole lot of code that we have to add in here. And the majority, the big thing of code, all right, I've already given to you. So you're going to be able to just drop it in. There's really probably only going to be 10 to 20 lines that we have to put in here to get this to work. But let's take a break just so I'm sure I have enough time to finish this. Let's take 13 minutes and come back, please, at 10:15. And I'm going to see if it's possible to upgrade or to update the framework. So. All right, I want to one more time explain why we're getting the error we're getting, and then hopefully at least how we can fix it. So what I want to do, and I started to do this before the break, but I'm going to start a brand new project. I'm not in this Garth Brook thing anymore. I'm totally off of there. I'm going to right mouse click on Visual Studio and choose Visual Studio 2022. All right. I guess this is what they refer to as a teaching moment for all of us, including me. All right. So what should happen is it should start up in here a new Visual Studio. And there it is. Okay, I'm not going to bring up, I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to show you what we should have done. All right. And when you click create project here, again, we've always been choosing Windows Forms app.net. And what I found out recently, all right, so I'm just going to type in here Windows Forms like that. That if we pick out and choose the one we've been choosing, which is the Windows Forms with .NET, it builds it in an older version of the .NET framework. We should have been using this one. All right. Now, I'm going to show you why this is important. So I'm going to choose this one and I'm going to choose next. All right. Now, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to save this or anything, but I'm not going to put it in Garth Brooks either. So I'm going to make a garbage folder out here on the desktop that I'm just going to call garbage. All right. And we'll just call all of these. So this will be garbage app. Okay. And I'm going to save this into garbage. All right. And I'm going to click right here, next. And this is where it becomes important. Notice it says .NET 6.0 long-term support. We've been using one that's not even listed here. Ours is like 4.7.2. All right. So I'll leave it right here to long-term support. And I'm going to click create. It doesn't look any different. It's going to come up and look virtually, or I guess exactly the same as it did before. All right. It's building, so just give it a second here. There you go. So it looks the same as it did. But now, see, here's where we had the problem. And again, I screwed up twice. And that is when we right mouse clicked on here and we chose add new project and we went to class library. Again, there's different ones. Had I used the class library, probably there's one in here for .NET framework, but we should really be using the latest and greatest, which is right here. All right, so if I use that and I click next, all right, now it's got the name, etc., and it's got the location. And if I click next, here's the problem. It says .NET 6.0, and that's now they're both 6.0. That's a good thing. All right, so if I click create, now what should happen is in that class library, if I come in and create a class library, all right, when I come in here and do this, they should be able to talk to one another. So how do I fix it? Because I'm not going to save this. But when I go back to our program here, if you look, I want to highlight all of this here. Copy it. This is what we're getting. All right. Warning, project music library, CS project targets .NET 6.0. It cannot be referenced by a project that references 4.72, which is our project. So during the break, I went in and looked at solutions. All right. And there are multiple ones. One is we come up here. Let me close this. All right. And this is we come up to our project right here. And Grant, I would guess you've been doing with what I'm doing. So you can I wouldn't do this yet. I'd try it. I'd wait till I do it and make sure it works. All right.
Sure.
But we can right mouse click on here and go down to properties. Then one of the things that's in here is your target framework. Well, I want to change this. The problem is when you look in here, it doesn't show 6. The biggest one is 4.8, but there is an install other frameworks. So I'm going to click on there and it says, which one do you want? Well, I'm looking here and I don't know why, what's the difference between a standard term support and a long-term support. But when I teach other classes and we've got a long-term support in LTS, that's the one it's always recommended that you choose. All right. So on that one right there, so Visual Studio 64K. All right, I'm going to click on that. It says, thanks for downloading that. All right. So it's saying that I should run the installer, verify the installation. And I don't know if this, like I said, if this is going to work or not. Cancel that. But I'm going to tell it once it gets done to open it. All right. So it says, use to build, run, and install.net. If you plan to use this, all right, fine. Install. Yes. And hopefully it won't take very long. You know, we had a problem this morning where it started to install some software and it took quite a while. I'm hoping after we do this, well, now that's all it said. It says it was successful. So click close. Okay, that's a start. Now, this release is only comparable with Visual Studio. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Direct link. Yeah, we've already done that. So it says when the installer completes, open a command box and run the .NET command. This will verify that it's in there and is okay to use. I've never done this before. That's why I said, Grant, I'd recommend you not doing it with me. So I'm going to come in here and type in .NET and hit enter. All right, well, we'll see whether or not that worked. What I'm hoping, and I don't know if this will happen or not, is when I go back to here now, all right, I'm going to try to close this and reopen it. So I'm closing that, I'm reopening it. I'm going to properties. I was hoping it would show 6 in here and it doesn't. See, then I thought, well, maybe we could go from the other end. So I went to music library and I went to properties. All right. But when you go here, there is no, it's 5.0 is the lowest one. The .NET Core we don't want to work with. That's what we work with in the next class. I don't want to mix libraries. But I was hoping there would have been a 4.8 in here, but it only goes down to 5. All right. So it says here, install other frameworks. We can try that too. But when you look in here, supported versions, there's the one we've got. All right. So 4.7.2, the problem is there's not really anything to choose here because we've already got it loaded. What I'm trying to figure out is how we can go in and we can get this compatible with what's in this one. All right. And it may be even that they may be compatible now, but I have to go back and I have to reboot. All right. I don't know. But what I am going to do is one last time, I want to say this to everybody else in here. All right. Everybody else in here. And Grant, I will talk to you if you've got time for 5 minutes after class. Okay. But make sure for all of you, when you come in here and you're creating your project, so when you come in here and you're starting up your Visual Studio in here, all right, you want to make sure that when you create a new project, that rather than that Windows Forms app.net, we just choose the Windows. So to come in here and type in Windows Forms, all right, and choose Windows Forms app, not the .NET one. but the one with C#, and do a next. Go in and name your stuff like you normally would. Do a next. Make sure that in here it says 6.0. You even can change it to 7 if you want to. All right. But at least make sure it says 6.0. You probably don't want to change it to 7, or let's leave it at 6.0. All right. And click create. And you saw this already. It will come in. It spins. It takes a little bit longer because there's additional stuff that it does that it hasn't been doing. That was it. Boom. Now it's doing this. It should come in up here in just a minute, and it should show us. It should show us the form in just a second. All right. Then when we come in and we right mouse click, okay, and we choose, now I don't even remember what I chose here, so let's take a quick look. So this is running with .NET 6.0, okay? So when I come in here and I right mouse click on my solution and I choose add and I choose new project, and I come up here and I type in class library, all right? And I come in here and I choose, let's just say this one. I think this one is fine. All right. And I don't know if, with this one, if it matters which one I choose here, but this one's got C# in it. So I'm going to click there and I'm going to click next. All right. And I'm going to click next again. All right. Now I want to make sure that this number is the same as the number for the other one. And it is. They're both 6.0. So if I click create now, I'm not going to add anything in here, but I should have this class library now in here. So there it is. It's just called class library. Why is this so important? Because now I should be able to come into my project here. I don't need that. I'm sorry. I should be able to come into my project here, right mouse click on it. All right. And choose add and choose I don't know if it's project reference or service reference, but I think it's project reference. There's class library. All right, you saw this before, and I check it. Then I click OK. What's different is now I should be able to come into my project here, this thing that says Windows Forms app, all right, right there. And I should be able to come in there. Now I should be able to, at the top of my project, I should be able to come in here and say using, and there's class library 1. So see, now it found it. There it is. I didn't do that. And I mean, I screwed you up, Grant, and I apologize, but I screwed myself up too. All right. So I'm not sure what the solution is going to be. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go on as if we were able to do this so I can show you the code that we're actually going to be writing in here. All right. So let me jump back. I'll get out of here because there's not much code left. I think I mentioned that before. All right. So I want to show that, and I want to show what indeed we have to do here in order to get this to work. Now, what's weird is I don't understand why my other one worked when I did absolutely nothing different. Nothing. And that one worked just fine. I really wish that one wouldn't have worked, so I would have already gone through this, so I could have just told you, hey, do this from the get-go. All right, I didn't. I screwed up. It's not the first time, won't be the last time. All right, whoops. But like I said, we'll get it to work. I'm not going to worry about it. But like I said, what I want to do here is I want to show you the code, and this is the code that we have to put in for our main screen. All right. Hold on just a second here. I've got my notes I'm bringing up now. There it is. All right. So don't need this up. Okay, I don't need that up, but I do want to bring up this, and I want to bring up the code window. Okay, so again, ideally what we were going to be able to do was to type in here using music library. We can't. Okay, I already explained that, but I want to show you the code that you need to put in here to get this to work. All right, so we are going to write a routine in our buttons load event in just a moment. But before we do, we're going to add 2 lines of code at the top. All right. Now, we're going to get errors with these because it's referencing stuff that's in our class library. So don't let that worry you. All right. But I'm going to type in here binding source equals, in fact, I got to give it a name first, album binding source. And that's going to be equal to a new binding source. Now that didn't give me any error, all right, because I haven't referenced anything yet. I'm creating something brand new. So there's no error there, all right? Now is where it's going to start because I'm going to type in here albums, DAO, and notice it doesn't, oops, I better spell albums, right? But albums, DAO, it doesn't recognize that. And it doesn't recognize it because even though it's down here, all right, it says suggested name. It doesn't recognize it in my list of options because it's in the Goofy class library. All right, so you can call it whatever you want. Typically, what you do is you call it the same name, but you make it lowercase. So I'm going to say albums DAO, albums DAO equals new albums DAO. Whoops, that's going to allow us to basically create or instantiate a new one of these objects. All right. Now, like I said, you shouldn't get, those of you watching this on tape, if you make sure that you've got the same version, the 6.0 version for both your project file, your Garth Brooks music app or whatever you call it, and the class library, you shouldn't get an error like right there like I am. All right. So inside of here then, I want to do a couple things. The first thing I want to do is I want to call a routine I haven't written yet. And I just called it load music data. And I want to show you something about this too. All right. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in private void load music data. Sometimes, I was always taught, all right, when I was your age or whatever you want to say, when I was in your education level, that when you create a routine, unless it's a class, you always start it with a lowercase letter. And that's what I've been doing. Now, that's not what Muroc does. And I have seen it happen before that if you started with an uppercase, sometimes when you come into here, the IntelliSense will kick in and it will basically set it up for you. All right. So, you can just hit the tab key, etc. But I've had you create them like this because that's the way I was taught. All right. I don't know if in the end if there's that big a difference one way or the other, but I'm going to get errors in here for a bunch of stuff that we do, just so you know. All right. Now what I want to basically do in this routine is I want us to go back again to what I sent you this morning. So I sent you a thing this morning called Class Day 01, and it's got this. This is the file. So notice what I'm doing in here, and I guess I skipped something. Of course, I didn't copy over everything. I missed a line of code. This should say album G1 equals new album. So I'm about to create 15 new albums. G1, there's its ID, there's its name, there's the artist, there's the year, there's the description, there's the URL. Then do the same thing for the next one. So I'm going to highlight all of this. All right, the whole thing, because that's all of these. In fact, I'm not going to do this yet. Okay, but I'll do all these. All right. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So there they are. Like I said, I'm probably going to get errors in here. All right. So paste, and you'll see there's errors for a lot of reasons. And we're going to talk about all of them in just a second. I want to go through this with you because you're going to have to clean up this file. All right. So I've got all that. And there's one too many curlies in there, so that's fine. Okay. And then the other thing that's in here is this, and this is adding them to that ADO class that we created that we can't reference now. All right. So I'm going to come in here. Do need that in there. All right. So let's talk about everything that's wrong with this. All right. You're going to have errors in yours, but you should not have an error on this line. But with each one of these, you need a semicolon at the end, which I guess I left off. So you need a semicolon there and there. So you see how it's formatting them. All right. And there. And there. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now here's a problem. What's the problem? Well, when you look in here, I didn't do a good job of cleaning this out. What do I mean? I'm going to show you right now. See that? I've got double quotes within my double quotes. Just get rid of these. So I'm going to get rid of the double quotes here and here and here. What I'll try to do is clean this file up and send it out again a little bit later today. And here and here, you only want one set of double quotes, but each time they list a new song, they're putting it in double quotes. I forgot to remove those. All right. So let's see, did that fix this one? See how there's no errors in here now? All right. So that's number 10 I've got to fix. 11 looks like it's okay. 12 looks like it's okay. 13 looks like it's okay. Here's another one. All right. So it's just 10, I think it was, and 14. So I've got to do the same thing here. So again, look at that. There's a double quote. All right. I've got to remove that, and all of these things it expects to be on the same line. There's another double quote. So I remove that, and now everything is fixed. Once I put in the semicolon and the semicolon. And again, this is attempting then to add each one of those into the class. All right. So only about 2 or 3 lines of code left, just so you know. All right. So after you do all that stuff, I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to go back into here where I call load music data. I want to add 2 more lines of code. The first one says album binding source dot data source equals, all right, album equals albums DAO dot albums. And again, it's not showing me that because I can't reference that. And then finally, my data grid view, we have to tell it, well, what's its data source? And its data source is the album's binding or album binding source. Right? So taking this from the top, because I balled it all up and I did not mean to, but I did. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you in here the actual working copy that I have. Okay. So that's the one we were just working on. I think it's this one right here, but we're going to find out. So I want to check first. There's my music library. I'm going to right mouse click on it and I'm going to choose properties. And it says, notice it's got 4.7.2. So that one it just took. I didn't set anything. It just took that one correctly. And if I go back over to my project and I right mouse click and I choose properties, that also says 4.7.2. That's why there were no problems when I ran this. So what I'd like to do is first run it. I know I already have, but I want to run it again. And then I want to show you all of the code that's in here. Okay, so here it is. There's the main or the splash page. That should be fine for everybody. But there's the main page. So now when I tell it to load the data, it does that. So it went out. These are those same 15 things that we just loaded a minute ago. So those are the IDs, the album names, the album artist, the year the album came out, the URL. If you look over here, there's the URL for that. For that, the album picture. And this is the description. All right. So all of it works. And I want to very quickly just show you the code because it's the same code I just showed you. Notice the using music library works. So we were able to pull that in. All right. Now, again, this is up to you. If you say, you know what, I'm just used to creating projects and doing them the way that you showed us at the beginning of the semester, blah, 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 etc. All right. So if you want to do that, you can. In other words, when we came in here, I don't want to screw this one up, but when we came in here and you did an ad and you did a new project over here. So if you come in here and you want to do this and you want to add something, you can when you go in and add the music library. All right, you can set that to 4.7.2. All I'm saying is you must make sure that the version you're using for both your project app file and for the class library are the same version. All right. So this is the same code I showed you before. Binding source, album binding source. This is just the name I came up with because we're using it to bind that those albums. All right. And here we're creating a new instance of that DAO class. So that right there is basically going out and it's calling that to create that new list for us. All right. And then in here, just like I showed you before, we call load music data. All right. And that is exactly what I just showed you in here. This is the same thing that I gave you that right now has got a couple fixes it needs in it, but I fixed it in here. All right. I should have copied it from here instead of copying it from the original I had. And then we add them to our DAO class. Nothing new in the splash, in this thing to hide. And I just put it in here rather than writing a separate routine. And then you come back into here and you add these two lines. And looky here, everything works. Now, I'm going to assume that, you did all this stuff, everything I just showed you, but you had problems with it. All right. Hey, I got the wrong version. This didn't work, etc. So what I am going to do immediately after I finish here, and Grant, I'm not going to make you sit through it unless you want to, welcome to, is I am going to immediately after I get done with this, all right, I'm going to pause for just about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to redo this. And when I redo it, I'm going to have both of them set to I'll just use the 4.7.2 like we've been doing. And because I've got all the code, I'm just going to have to add everything back in. All right. So that's what I have. So far, what I'm asking you to do, other than just add all this stuff, create this, is I'm going to ask that you in yours all right, have a menu on each page that allows you to iterate the same way the buttons do. And on your home page, put a help option in the menu. All right. And also, I'd like you to at least try so that when you are loading this stuff up, I did it kind of the cheater way. In other words, I set up my array of images and that was fine. But rather than setting up an array of picture boxes, which I should have done, I did it like this. And that's a cheesy way of doing things. I shouldn't have to do 16 different assignment statements if it's possible to put this in a loop and have one assignment statement. And there's a thing of like writing code and writing code the right way. And I'm trying to make sure you create your code the right way. All right. So on Monday, I'm going to go back in just a minute and do this. And I'm going to choose 4.7.2, which is the one we've been choosing for this. And I'm going to choose it for the class library. Grant, I apologize. What we may be able to do here, this just hit me right here. Maybe we can, as the saying goes, pull a rabbit out of a hat. It's possible. I'm going to remove this. This is the one that works, so I don't want to remove that. All right. But I'm going to go back into the one that we were working with that works. All right, this Garth Brooks. I'm going to bring this up. No idea if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to try. All right, so I'm going to come in here, and even rather than removing this, I'm going to come in and attempt to add a new class library. So I'm going to say add new project. And again, I'm going to come in here and put in class library. All right, I'm going to put this in right there. Next. Grant, this you can do. It won't hurt anything. And the name, I'm going to call it Music Library 2. Make sure I have no spaces in there. Yeah, one word, Music Library 2. All right. And I'm going to put it in my solution. Next. Now I'm going to click here. Are you kidding me? Well, it sure didn't like that. All right, I won't be able to do this. All right, I thought maybe I could. I was hoping that when we did this, what it would show me. That's library.
I noticed that there's one that says .NET Framework down there. Could
Here,
that work with
and we can try that one. I don't know. Yeah, look, 4.7.2. Oh, you're the man. All right, so I'm going to click create here, and that should create it. It did. I should, I don't want to ruin anything, but I should be able to go to my album class that we did before and literally grab that code right there, just that, and then come back into my music library 2 and do an add class. And I'm going to put in here album.cs. All right, make this public. Paste that in. All right. And I don't now this nullable, that's new, so it doesn't even know this. That's why I don't need those question marks in there anymore. All right. So we now got that one. Let's see if we can bring in the album DAO. So again, I'm going to grab this. Well, that's just one line. All right. So in here, I'm going to again right mouse click, choose add class, and that will be albums DAO.cs. I'm again going to put public here. And I'm again going to paste in that line, just like that. All right. Now we'll see if it works. So I'm going to go back to the project. I'm going to right mouse click on the project. I'm going to choose add reference. And I want to go over here to projects. I don't want music library. I do want music library 2. Click OK. All right. Now will be the moment of truth. If I come in here and I bring up my FRM main page and I click in here and choose view code, can I say using music? There it is, music library 2. So that works. Now, when I look in here, okay, and I put it into the, let's see, I put it into the main page, yeah. I got to go and add all that code back that I just showed you. All right. So let me go and grab all that code. So, well, I'll rewrite it. It's okay. And so in here, I want to call load music data. All right, which is giving me an error because it isn't written. So private void load music data. All right, now I want to go back over to where the one that I gave you here, but I want to fix this. So it was number 14 here. Had all these double quotes in it. I want to get rid of those. There were more than that. Nope. So that one actually should be okay. And I think the other one was number 10, but we'll find out. Yep. So I've got to remove all these double quotes. So it was record 10 and number 14 that have to be fixed. And it's not terrible. Got to remove all those double quotes, except for the one at the beginning and the one at the end. So this should be now okay. So let me grab this, everything that's in there, and I'm going to plop that into right here. I did not, I do need to put in my semicolons at the end, but I'm trying to see if, oops, after I do that, if I'm going to get any errors or not. All right, so let's see, I'm going to move all these over. Like that, there's that. But it's giving me some problems here, so let's see. We'll fix it. I'm not worried about it. All right. So let's go back up to here at the very top where we've got load music data. And then after load music data, I already know what the problem is. Okay. All right. After load music data, we'll need here album binding source. We didn't put in those 2 lines up above here, so let me put those in. Let's see. I need 1 line right here that says binding source. I showed you this before. Album binding source equals new binding source. All right. And I also need albums DAO, which it now recognizes. Albums DAO equal new albums DAO. All right. Now all those errors that I had down here should all be gone, and they are. So make sure that at the top of your program, before your anything else, so right underneath the initialized component, add those 2 lines. All right. Then we've got our load music data. And finally, we've got to connect this thing. So there's 2 lines, and then we'll see if it works. So album binding source dot data source. And that's equal to albums DAO dot albums. And then finally, DGV, data grid view, albums dot data source is equal to the albums album binding source, which was that one. All right. Now, I'm not going to go through again all of the permutations, etc., the combinations to get this thing to work, but let's see if it does work. So I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to run it. There were errors. All right. Whoa. Give me a bunch of errors here. So it says, oh, well, you'll see there was another error here. So that record was number 8. Had double quotes in it as well. All right. And there's going to be a bunch of these that are going to have those double quotes in there. Doggone it. All right, that'll fix that one. Here's another one. So you're just going to have to work your way through here. I mean, I can go fix it and give you send out another one that's got all the double quotes off as well. It's not a big thing one way or the other. And I will tell you, I don't get, I'm not just saying what I'm about to say here. And that is, sometimes what you find is when you're a programmer, pardon my French, but you're cleaning up other people's crap. And that's kind of what I'm asking you to do. All right. All right, so that one should be fixed. And it didn't take long. All right, now what is it saying here? It's not support 6.0. I want to remove now this original music library. And now that error went away that said it was still there. Now I don't know if I can right mouse click on here and choose a rename. I don't care that it says music library 2. I really don't. But I'm going to do a file, save all. And I'm going to try to run it. Main page. Hot dog. Grant, I'm glad you saw that. I appreciate it. And does yours work?
Yeah. I'm not completely up to where you are, but mine's working
Okay.
so far.
That's fantastic. So last thing I'll say, and that is this. When you come in, all of you, I'm going to recommend, because we've been doing things a certain way all semester. All right. So I'm going to recommend that when you come in and you start to create this. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm coming in here and I don't even know what this is. So I'm just going to ignore that. And I'm going to close this. Go to all and close this. Don't save. So when you come in here and you start up your new session of Visual Studio, all right, last time I'll say it, you can do this in very many different ways, but the easiest way, this is the easiest way. Create a new project, just like we have been doing. Just choose Windows Forms app .NET Framework. Choose that one. All right. So right there, and click next, give it a name, etc. You know all this stuff. And under the framework here, I would just keep it right where it is at 4.7.2 and then click create. That'll go faster. Boom, it'll create your form for you quicker than it did when we just upgraded and looked at the other one. It should do it in literally a matter of, well, usually in a matter of seconds. There it is. Then when you go in to create your class library, you will right mouse click on the solution. You will click add. You will click new project. You will come up here and type in class library. All right. And which was the one, Grant? Was it the one that just?
It was the one that also said .NET Framework.
All right. So the one that says .NET Framework right here.
I think that one, yeah.
Yeah. So click on that and click next. Don't go on until you're sure that that number is the same number, that 4.72 that you saw earlier. If you do that, you should be able to go in and link those together. All right. Now, depends on your point of view. And I'm not speaking for Grant. I'm speaking for Jeff here. I'm not glad this happened, but in a way I am, because it allowed me to show you a few things that we had not talked about, and to see some of the problems that you can run into when you've got two pieces of software that, because one is a newer version than the other one, that they can't communicate with one another. All right. So what I am asking you to do, no, you're not turning anything in for this project yet. Your homework this weekend that's due tomorrow by midnight are the chapters 19, 21, and 22 written test. But I am going to expect on Monday, when you come in here, that you're going to be caught up. And if you had problems going through this, you're going to email me by no later than Sunday so that I can take a look at it. Now, last thing, that because sometimes when people have problems, you email me and you're saying, I'm getting this error. I may or may not be able to debug it based on that error. But what you can do is, if you're having major problems, go ahead and take your project, all right, basically create a GitHub repository, do your git init over here, etc., and just take that one project and push it out to GitHub. That I can take a look at. All right. So hopefully everything I said at least made some sense. Thanks for sticking with me. I will talk to you on Monday. I hope you all have a nice Thanksgiving holiday. Thanks.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.